Good evening. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. Welcome to the fourth installment of our presidential speaker series. For those of you who haven't been here before, what we do is we have bring in speakers, they give a talk, we follow it with a fireside chat, and then we kick it to you, the audience, to ask any questions you might have, and then we follow with a reception with food and drinks out in the hallway. And tonight we even have art from our students out there and t-shirts, so you'll get to meet the artists who created that work, and I think it'll be a really special time together. So without any further ado, tonight's speaker is Sassa Wilkes. Sassa is an Appalachian artist from West Virginia, working primarily in Huntington. He has a background in sculpture and painting, and his studio work focuses on oil painting with a particular interest in portraiture. Sassa has always been interested in rendering human faces and bodies and has used a huge variety of media and approaches to do it. He says he has an active imagination and dream life, which he thinks fosters his love for surrealism in art. He tries to capture the spirit of the people he paints, yet leave enough space for the viewer to see themselves in the work as well. Sassa says he's in love with oil paint and is inspired by a constantly growing and diverse list of artists. He uses a combination of traditional layers and techniques and often plays in mixed media with the use of collage, oil mediums, graphite, and gold and silver leaf. Outside the studio, Sassa enjoys creating large-scale public murals. Whenever possible, he likes to work alongside community members to create work that changes the feel of our environment and brings people together through a shared experience. Sassa earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Sculpture from Marshall that has heavily informed his work as a painter. He said he paints in a very sculptural way. He's also earned a Master's in Teaching from Marshall and has more than 10 years of teaching experience. Currently serves as the Director of Creative Placemaking and Coalfield Development. Those experiences inform Sassa's work, whether he's developing programs for artists or creating collaborative pieces of public art with community or working to change the narrative about Appalachia. Sassa Wilkes, welcome to Fairmont State's Presidential Speaker Series. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Y'all can hear me? I'm being a real diva about this podium right now because, sorry about that. I didn't know I was going to be juggling so many things. I have a lot of notes. I got poetry. I didn't want to miss anything. First, I just want to say thank you to you all for having me. This has been truly an awesome experience, getting to know students. Getting to know Joel especially has been really cool because you are an artist that I've admired for a long time. So it's super awesome to get to work with you this way. Dr. Davis and Dr. Someski and Tiffany and all the students that walked me to class so I wouldn't get lost. I really appreciate you all very much. So I'm going to talk to you all. This is the second talk I've given, so some of you heard the first one and some of you haven't. I'm going to try to throw a little bit of the first one in so nobody's really missing any context. And between the first talk and this talk, some of the students got to come and visit me at my West Edge factory studio as well. So we've had a lot of interaction, and you saw the students' work coming in, so I'm going to give you a little bit of context for that and for the theme of our interaction through this residency. But I also want to go kind of way far back, and part of the bio you read was, I'm not even sure where that came from, the first part. I haven't used those words in a while, but it's very fitting because the portraiture part, especially in the way I painted people, that's kind of what I'm going back to. So I'm going to go back to like almost 10 years ago, and I'm going to show you art that I've never shown anybody in a PowerPoint. A lot of it has never been shown anywhere, and it's not all my best work, but there's a reason I'm going to show it to you. So I want to give you a little bit of understanding about our theme that we worked in. And this has to do with the students' work too. Our theme we settled on was collective awareness. This is a big mouthful. Interwoven connection in Appalachian communities. And we talked a lot about mycelial networks. And if you don't know what that is, you need to go into a rabbit hole online when you leave here and look up mycelial networks. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. It's basically an underground fungal strings that are connected to each other that connect all the trees and plants to one another. So under the forest floor, where we don't see it. We're always walking on this kind of spongy web, like that's a picture of a mycelial web right there. So plants will actually talk to each other through that. If you get a scientist who's super nerdy, they'll probably tell you it's like the wood wide web. They really talk to each other. They send information, communication. They sense the needs of the plants around them. So they can know when when one of the plants is particularly thirsty or particularly hungry or needs some kind of nutrients. And they can send a little more toward those weaker plants. To me, that's a good metaphor for Appalachia. I think we all have that in our roots, in our deep knowing. We can kind of look at each other and sense who needs extra help and who doesn't and try to create some kind of equilibrium there. The thing the plants do not do, they don't look up the neighboring plant's political affiliation to make sure that they are aligned in their views before they send water to the plants. They don't look to see what gender the plant is. They don't look at the color of the plant. They don't look at where the plant originated from before they decide whether or not they want to give or withhold. So I feel like that's a lesson we can all take from. That's in our nature also, I think. It's in our Appalachian nature to just give to each other. And I grew up partially in Paint Creek, West Virginia, like deep coal country. So I would go there every weekend with my parents and go to church and visit my great-grandmother, who they were all coal miners. She ran a coal boarding house. And there was always a seat at that table. It did not matter who anybody was. There was always a seat there for anybody. If you're hungry, come and get you something to eat. If you're thirsty, come in and have a drink. Sit on the porch. They did not care. I even specifically remember them saying, like, well, that fellow's a little weird. But, like, are you hungry? Get something to eat. Like, that was it. That was really it. So I feel like we can all sort of learn from that. So this is the theme that we worked within. These are the students that came to West Edge Factory with me to pull the prints on these shirts. So the front of the shirt was my design, and it was supposed to be, I wanted a unifying sort of, almost like a logo that would make sense, but like you said about my portraiture, leave a little bit of room for people to make their own interpretation so it wasn't all spelled out for you. And I want it to look really simple. And as I told our students, like, simple is hard. It's hard to make a simple design that reads as a certain thing. But I want it to be simple so that their designs on the back could be more elaborate. And that could be the one that really, like, says the thing that they want to say. But we talked about this front piece being like the unifying theme. And I love that we got to do that at West Edge Factory, because West Edge Factory, where I work, I'm going to toot their horn. It's coalfield development that I work for now. That factory, though, in particular, employs people with a lot of barriers to employment. There's a lot of people that work there who have been in the prison system and are trying to get their life back together. There's a lot of people who are in active recovery from substance abuse and are getting their life together. They do woodworking, construction. People come in not even knowing how to hold a hammer, and they're now learning how to. They know well enough what they're doing that they're building a black box theater inside of West Edge. So they train people, but they also, like, help them get their life together, like, individually. What do you need? We'll help you get your license, help you get home, whatever you need. So they kind of help people along that path. And to me, that's very mycelial. That's like, those are the people in our community who are really suffering. Some of them are ex-coal miners, and their families have all been coal miners, and the industry is not supporting that kind of work so much anymore. Some of them are sick and can't do certain types of work. So a lot of people there are adults with disabilities. We do a lot of art with adults with disabilities too. So that makes total sense to me. Like, those are people that need a little more. Do I need somebody to come and, like, see if I need my driver's license? No. Do they? Yes. Well, then give it to them. Like, it's just very basic, easy to do kind of stuff. But this is my design. So they came to West Edge. We talked about these mycelial networks. We talked about the importance of all of that, and the importance of not looking away from the people that need us the most. And this goes for, like, there's all kinds of stuff in Appalachia where this is applicable. The flooding that happens here recently, and hopefully not this weekend, that kind of thing. Like, it's super easy for us to sort of look away from those things, but it's important that we don't. And we are very encouraged by everywhere you look, everyone around us, to look away from each other, to like not look each other in the eye. So this design, I wanted to convey a sense of connection and awareness with the open eye. And like I said, Appalachians, I think, sort of have that in our bones that we want to, but we don't always get to do face-to-face stuff anymore. So I think our awareness and our connection comes from the attention that we're willing to give each other. So it's about intentionally keeping your eye on what's happening in front of you and who might need what. Because we can only really like sense the suffering of people or sense where a need might be if we're open to it, right? So I also wanted to turn that eye sort of inward, and that's what I want to talk to you about also. After this, I really encourage you to talk to the students about their interpretations and what they meant by that. But there was another side of this for me, this design, and I touched on this with the students, but I didn't go into it. It's about turning that eye into yourself too, so that you can be self-reflective and understand yourself fully. Because sometimes it's really hard to reach out to other people in any way if you don't understand yourself fully. I know personally I was not open to any kind of genuine human interaction truly for the longest time because I just wasn't aware of myself. There was a lot of parts of me that I wasn't open to. I was like hiding stuff. I was not wanting to deal with things out of like safety reasons and all of that. So I think being shut down to that made me not able to have real, authentic interactions with people. So I want to show you a progression of artwork it starts in 2016, so it's almost 10 years ago, where I fully was asleep, unaware of myself and everything around me, and I woke up. And it's crazy to show this progression of artwork because I've told a lot of people, yeah, man, my first solo show was called Before I Wake. And then I went on this big like journey with meditation and yoga and like self-help and like trying to figure myself out. And now my work looks crazy different. But until I put this slideshow together, I haven't looked at it. I haven't looked at these pieces of artwork together. And this is a small sample of hundreds of images that are so similar. And maybe it won't be crazy to you, but it's crazy to me to look at it. So here's my 2016 solo exhibition postcard, Before I Wake. I didn't know why I was calling it that. I made nothing with any reason, really. I would sort of say later what the reason was. This particular one was a dream that I had, so that one kind of had a reason, but I didn't title these with like, oh, this is what I have in mind. At this point, I was just on like autopilot. I was in a real trauma response place of my life, and I was cranking out art like crazy, and it just was what it was. This is an 8-foot-long ink drawing on Yupo paper, Mylar, and it was an image of my car trying to murder me, as they do. And it was a dream I had. And I think I called it vehicular homicide because I thought I was being funny. But anyway, I noticed when I put this up, like, there's no eyeballs in this. There's all these heads. There's no eyeballs in this. And this is kind of the vibe of the artwork at the time that I was making. It's kind of the vibe of all of it. Generally pretty terrifying looking, a lot of anxiety, not a lot of color, like, it's kind of just sort of like scary and completely devoid of eyes, which I found out when I was making this slideshow. None of these freaking things have eyes. And I did not know that until I was putting this slideshow together. And I was like, wow, this is really on the nose. Like, this is crazy. So this is my coworker. I would have other people pose for me. I specifically remember asking him to pose for this picture. And I told him to appear lifeless and heavy and more than asleep. I remember telling him more than asleep. And I didn't mean dead. I didn't know what I meant. I just wanted him to be more than asleep. So I configured his face in all kinds of, this is probably one of 10 I did of this image. That was one of my students. I photographed my students and had them do the same thing. I was messing with a lot of mixed media kind of stuff and just figuring out layering and digital layering and all of that too. But students always fully asleep. My son, I remember coaching him to get the perfect amount of like weight in his neck to make him look like unaware, just like he was floating completely unaware. And I would get really fixated on these images at the time. Like this picture of Max, I bet I drew and painted it 30 times. I mean, just over and over and over. I did that a lot with self-portraiture too. And sometimes it wasn't enough to like close their eyes. I just blacked them out. Or golded them out. That's one of my students with the gold over it. And again, I know this is dumb to say now, I did not do that on purpose. And no images I could find had eyeballs back then. None of them. So it's kind of freaky. Sometimes the figures were like covering their eyes. That's a little piece of another 8-foot drawing that was like a snake attack that was wrapping this person up like 8 different times. Sometimes they were like peacefully asleep. That's an image I took of myself, and I can't even imagine how many times I drew or painted that or collaged on it. And that's supposed to be like the hand of God coming down to put a light bulb in my head, and that's some religious text coming out of my mouth. So the theme here, absolutely zero autonomy. None of these figures have any autonomy. They don't have any eyes. They're not seeing anything that's going on. They're definitely not like looking at you like a portrait would, where it commands some kind of like interaction from you or the figure wants something. These are people that are like dangling, lifelessly dangling. Stuff is happening to them, but they're not really like a key player. They're not really in control of any of it. Sometimes I drowned them. Sometimes I floated them in the sky. Like, sometimes they were attacked by a swarm of bees while Rene Magritte, I think that's Rene Magritte, 2 of him just sort of watched on, probably in horror. So, all of these figures, like something is going on that's crazy that they're not, or they're just completely asleep to everything. And it's hard to look back on that and understand that now and see that now with such clarity, that I was so unaware of myself. I was so deeply traumatized and hiding my identity, hiding so much of myself from so many people, not thinking much about my past. There was a lot of junk I just wasn't able to deal with at the time. And it's really wild how we can close our eyes to our own selves. So if I haven't met you, if you don't know, from all of these context clues, I'm trans. And that's one big thing that I was way, way deep in the closet about. But I knew it. I mean, I knew I was when I was really little. And then I even at some point later really had the words for it even, and I knew, and I was like, oh yeah, that's true about me, maybe in my 20s, but I was like, no, that's not safe. That is not safe in any way for me to say that to, and it really wasn't. So I'm not like shaming myself for not coming out with it. But it's crazy how we can turn ourselves off to our own insides. Like, I really consider myself a pretty intelligent, like decently intelligent at least, reflective kind of person. Like, I like to think back on things. I like to know what's going on in my head now, especially. But back then, I was so closed off to it that it was like too easy to shut that door. And like I said, I had zero authentic, real, like enriching communication with other people. No community at all. I had like friends in my periphery, but it was all that kind of like I'm just pretending to do what I'm pretending to be a person while I'm with this person. But I had no idea like who I really was. So in like 2018, I started doing, I'm not here to sell you yoga. Yoga just worked for me. But I started doing yoga, and I started doing a lot of meditation. I read a ton of books. I really very intentionally was like, I need to figure my shit out like right now. I just know, I knew at that moment that I was not, like, that wasn't a sustainable way to live. So I started doing a ton of really reflective practices. And that's when, I told some of Joel's students earlier, I wrote a really crazy book. I just went down in my basement every week on Sunday and wrote a chapter. I tried to be like a surrealist about it and like didn't plan it out. I just went down there all day, clicked around like just to see what would happen. I had a very loose outline. It was very sci-fi. It was real weird. And I just wrote a chapter a week and published it online. And I kept doing that until I turned 38. That's when the last chapter was coming out. And the exhibition was called Chapter 38. And it was on my 38th birthday. And this is a painting from that show. I was not apparently ready to give him eyes, but he does have cool glasses that made me, and in my mind I remember thinking that this is a person who's like looking deeply, like they're using glasses to look deeply into something. The rest of the work, this is the best image that will sum up the rest of the work from that show, which, I mean, that's just a more obvious example. So that's two of me like looking into my own self. That ball is like this kind of soul experience. Like I'm really wanting to know what's going on at that point. So that one's a really good example. So after, I mean, I'm not saying this like, oh, I've arrived, I'm better, I'm perfect now. When I say after, I just mean it's really worked. I got better at things. It really opened me up in a lot of ways. So after this body of work, and you can tell it's got a little bit of color and a little bit of eyes, but not a whole lot. So I was like starting to get curious at this point. And at this point, I was really understanding myself. I was like, okay, this is what's going on. This is what I'm hiding. This is what I'm not ready to talk about. This is what's what. I noticed that I started getting curious about other people. I was like sick of myself. Because if you read so many self-help books, you just get really tired of it, and it's like, I'm done. This is used up. I'm done with it. So I started like being naturally very curious about other people, and I wanted to put myself in a context of like a historical context or something. So I started getting really curious about history. I never paid attention to that in school at all, but I was really curious about that all of a sudden. I was curious about gender specifically, so I started looking into women's history. That was when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died too. I don't know if this is, I think I might need to just pull that up. Yeah, I can just scroll through this. So this was kind of the next project after that body of work, where I just painted Ruth Bader Ginsburg after she died, and then I just kept painting other women every single day for 100 days straight. There's Mother Jones, my personal hero and drag inspiration someday. Some of them are local. I just, again, went down in my basement, did not emerge for 100 days, and painted one portrait a day for 100 days. This was during COVID, so you can do that kind of thing, when you're not allowed to leave. I don't even know how long it would take to scroll through this. And I just picked, some of them were trans women. I think I was really exploring gender at that point. The Golden Girls was a fun little moment. Lots of musicians. I was really inspired by musicians. But like literally anybody I just wanted to know more about. And then like Paige Mueller-Liley, she's someone that was very well known in my hometown. So people were suggesting people constantly. And immediately suggesting that I paint myself, which for reasons I told you earlier, I was wildly uncomfortable with doing. So I was like, absolutely not. That's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. But they kept telling me to do it anyway. And they had really good arguments for that. Like, if you don't paint yourself with the badass women, like, what are you teaching little girls? So I was feeling really bad about it. So I was trying to come up with like a sneaky way around it. My God, this goes on forever. The Gorilla Girls, they're cool. So my last painting, I used my face to paint Medusa. And that was my way of appeasing the people that wanted me to paint myself, but getting to tell the really badass story of Medusa at the same time and sort of reclaim her narrative as well. So at the end of that project, I thought that was a cool way to end the project, and I really thought it was an interesting way to put myself into a historical context of womanhood, which was extremely important to me. Like, that's not a thing or a past part of me that I wanted to leave behind, that I ever was ashamed of or anything like that. It's something that meant very much to me. So I thought that was a really cool way to include myself in it without fully including myself in it in a way that made me feel, really uncomfortable. And then I had a solo exhibition of that work at the Huntington Museum of Art. And in front of 350 people, I came out on stage, which was crazy. And I really thought I was going to throw up and die on the stage. I had told some people before, and some people that very closely followed me online probably had gotten the gist, but these were not people that I talked to on a regular basis, and that place was packed. It was crazy. So I came out at that point, and I kind of had this feeling like I had snuck up to honesty about it, and I'd snuck up to this understanding of myself, and I just immediately had a full 100% intolerance for showing up in public in any way that didn't feel authentic to me. I was like, I can't do it. I don't think I can physically make my legs walk into a room and pretend to be somebody I'm not. And it hit me that that's why I didn't show up before. That's why I wasn't having interactions with people that felt authentic. That's why when people would look at my artwork and be like, wow, I really love your artwork. I brushed it off so completely. And it wasn't because I didn't think the work was any good. It was because they weren't even talking to me. They were talking to a person that they saw in one way, and I didn't feel like myself. So it was like there was a barrier between me and everybody I ever came in contact with. So I was just like, I can't do it. I can't walk on this stage and be like, thank you, this is great, whatever. I have to be honest, or there's no point in me being here anymore. So I just promised myself I would do that, and I would always do that no matter what room I was in. And it really cracked me open in a different way, where I started to get interested in other people's lives. All of a sudden, I was interested in physically being with other people. And I've always thought that I was an extreme introvert. And I am a little bit of an introvert. I can go in my garden and hide and never come out, and that's fine. But I'm not extreme about it. I actually do enjoy the company of other people. I've loved getting to know all of you all. It's just that the way I was doing it before wasn't tolerable. But all of a sudden, I was like, man, let's make art together. Why do I got to sit in my basement by myself? This sucks. Let's make art together. I don't even know why I stuck that in there. Look at my face. That's how I felt. I gave a whole TED talk about it. So you can find that online if you want to. So I started having a studio at West Edge. I started doing a residency there. That snake image is made out of probably 400 people's artwork. So for a full year, I did community workshops with people, and it was post-COVID, so it was let's come back together. We've not been able to connect with each other. Let's learn how to do photo transfers. Let's do collage stuff. Let's paint. Let's any possible thing. And it was all done with this really joyful, playful attitude. You're not taking this with you, so don't worry about what it looks like. Just make stuff alongside each other. We did one collage, and all of it was very healing. It was intentionally very healing. I had people bring in clothing that was really important to them, so that we could collage it into this piece. And one woman who had breast cancer and had a mastectomy brought her bras. Somebody who lost a child brought their child's clothes. It was really, really deep. Someone who had lost a different child brought in scans of that child's artwork, and we put the kid's artwork in the snake. So it's signed by Rachel, 7 years old, and she's got her artwork all over it. So every interaction that I had with these groups of people was just so perfectly healing and so honest. I was hanging out with people in a way that was so wildly different to me because they were seeing me for who I was, and I was in a place where I felt supported as who I was. The next piece that came out of that was a mural all the way across the West Edge factory. And that included the hands of the people that worked in West Edge. I got to know them and took pictures of the different things they did there. So that sort of honored their work. And the little circles that you see everywhere are painted by the people at Coalfield. I had some workshops with them too, and they got to have pieces that went into it. This piece was done in collaboration with our Art From Within program, which is adults with disabilities. So I did the hands, and we painted up the side of the building, but all the bubbles were painted with this group of adults with disabilities, and there's lots of information about them that you can find with it too. This asphalt mural was painted with Huntington Pride. That was the coolest thing. That was probably the coolest day of my entire life. That was like, I don't know, 100, 150 people. We painted for 11 straight hours and made that happen on the street, and it was just amazing. You would have never seen my ass in a group photo. This is hilarious to me. My husband's in there too, and he's almost as shy as I used to feel like I was. So to see him in a group photo is pretty remarkable as well. There's Jody's in there too, I think, isn't he? No? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so this is like a friend group that I made basically because of all of this, that I've remained really tight with. So this type of like co-creation that I've been doing with people, it feels so powerful and so interesting and so high energy that it's like a little bit hard for me to want to go back and do it any other way. And I don't think that my days in the studio are gone. Sometimes I miss that. I like that solitary work. I like getting like a cup of coffee and a podcast and being in the AC instead of up on a lift or whatever. But it's really difficult to picture myself going back and doing that. And before, I thought that my values as an artist were like, I want to master painting. I want to master oil painting. I'm going to really get there and just paint for the rest of my days and, I don't know, what, just leave behind a bunch of paintings. Why? That seems crazy to me now because I've had these experiences with other people where I get to sort of, I can have a vision and I can be creative about what I want the thing to look like, and I can help a whole bunch of people get together and make that thing together, and then we don't just have the art. What we have afterwards is so much more powerful than just the art. It's the experience that we all had together. That's the thing. You know, I used to feel like I got that like in the zone flow high feeling off of making art that was really nice. And I did, like, you know, you level up a little bit and you see some hard work really get you to the next level, and it's nice. But the feeling of working with all these people and doing these huge things together, and then seeing these people tell their friends and their family, like, I did that piece, I did that, that's really incredible. And that is creating a sense of place with each other that's really, it seems just way more my thing now. This slide is just that, it's just going from just the craziest fear and despair to something more reflective to something more bright. And I put that together just so I could see that. Because truly, I have not looked at these images together like this ever. And it really kind of blew my mind when I did. So I want to end this by reading you the poem that I wrote for the students when we were making the designs. I just think sometimes in lieu of an artist statement, I write a poem because it just seems easier to me to do that somehow. So I hope my poem sort of like drives the point of this design home better. Don't look away from the part of you that knows what is right and what is wrong, from your neighbors whose lives are so different from yours. Look them in the eye, listen, learn. Don't look away from your heart, from your pain, from your struggle. Sit at the table with your worst fears. Call them out by name. Don't even look away from the parts you can't see, from what connects us all, a network of mycelium trying to remind us that we know without ever being taught how to send our water to those who are dry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. As I was listening to it, I was thinking about actually something you said at lunch when we were talking about asking questions, and you were saying you really like when people ask you questions because it helps you explore. And I resonate with that. I feel the same way. When we were going through a lot of this, it sounds like you were doing that yourself, right? So how do you explore things yourself? How do you ask questions for yourself when you're not putting yourself out there, right? How'd you go through that journey and figure that out?
Do you mean like how did I start the process of turning inward and asking myself those really hard questions?
I think that's really, I think for all of us functioning in the world, that's often the hardest thing to do, right? It's really easy to ask questions of others, right? Often. It's hard to ask questions of ourselves.
No, it is. And the thing that it took for me, and I'll be 100% honest here, and this is not a thing that I feel proud of, the thing it took for me is that I was raising a child, and I saw myself responding to my son in ways that I was treated growing up that really harmed me. And I don't mean that I was harming him. I mean, it was like a really mild little, like, I'm like, oh, no. I just, like, I saw somebody else in myself. Or I just saw, like, a lack of patience or a lack of understanding with him. And I had done that in a million ways, I'm sure, before that. But when you do that to your own kid and you see, like, the response and how harmful that can be, even the smallest little things, it just stopped me dead in my tracks. And I was like, oh, hell no. Like, I'm not going to be a parent like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to. And I very purposefully at that moment, you start reading about how to be a better parent and start reading about how to be a better person. And to be a better parent, you just have to be a better person. Like, you can't start to become a better parent unless you ask yourself those hard, like, why am I acting that way? Why am I irritated? Because what he just did was a little bit annoying, but it wasn't that annoying, and I wanted to know why I was behaving in ways I didn't like. And then, looking back, I can see behaviors that I had throughout other relationships that I'm not proud of. But apparently it was not quite enough until it was my own son. And that was just a hard no. Like, I'm not doing that to him.
Oh, that's great. One of the things I really liked about your presentation is I think often we show our best work. We show the work we're proudest of. And nobody sees the sort of rough drafts, and not rough drafts of our personality, rough drafts of what we're going through at the time. So what I really liked that, and then I really liked you sort of said, I'm not done, right? This isn't your final, right? Who you are now is not who you're going to be in 10 or 20 years. And I think that's a really important lesson, probably for all of us to hear, but especially for our students who are sort of figuring those things out. What kind of advice do you have for budding artists or anybody who's sort of figuring out that place?
Nobody knows what they're doing. And when I figured out that nobody really knows what they're doing, a big weight was lifted off my shoulders. It's happened a bunch of times in my life when I started being a teacher, when I started as an adjunct professor, like these moments where I was like, oh, I'm really something, like this is a big deal. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, I'm not, and nobody knows what they're doing. So I think that's really freeing. That's probably my best advice, is just to understand that all people are people, and they're all kind of dealing with the same junk and the same stuff. And like, of all the things I've ever wanted to hide, I guess, about myself, the rougher parts of me has not ever really been one, because I just know it's all bullshit. Like, I know y'all have it too. I know y'all have been crappy to your kids. I know some of you kids have deserved it. Like, I know that people don't act right all the time. None of us do. So to pretend like I do is like, and I love showing old artwork. I love showing the artwork that is not great. I always show students really, really rough artwork because I want them to see that you'll get past it. And it's not, it sucks until you've done it enough times that it starts to suck a little bit less. It's the tiny little slow progression. And don't be afraid to share it. Like, you're going to make stuff that you're not proud of, especially if you're just starting out. You're going to make things that are not polished. You're going to live in that, like, the gap for a long time where you can envision what you want to make and you have good taste and you're following artists that are really good, but your skill level, you just haven't done it for enough hours to be able to make it yet. And that is the most frustrating place to live. But just know that you're there, and don't be afraid to say that you're there. Like, everyone is there. There are some people who don't put that gap part on Instagram. And they go look on my Instagram. There's the crappiest drawings ever on my Instagram. And put your crappy drawings up, keep them up, and let other people see your progression. And it really will help other people too. Because I hear that from students all the time, that it helps them to see my artwork. So that would be, nobody knows what they're doing, and put your crappy drawings on Instagram.
Yeah, because I think when we don't, it's intimidating, right? And if you're working with community members who don't have the years of experience, that you do in art, and you want them to do a project with you, that vulnerability is really important, right?
Yeah.
The fact that we're all a work in progress.
Yes, and that's what one of the things I really love about working with people who think they're not artists is if you have an artist or somebody who's a good teacher to sort of guide the experience, they can always make something really cool. There's not shortcuts to getting really good at art, but there are some shortcuts to getting people who are non-artists to like make something that's really cool looking. So I love facilitating that with people. I love helping them, and even drawings. Like you can cut up a portrait and give people little sections, and they can, the little grid drawings where they each do a section and you put them back together. And it's always kind of remarkable, even with people that don't do art. So that feeling of like, people that don't think they're artists just backing up and looking at a thing and being like, wow, I made that. Like, that's incredible, I made that. Or even better, we made that. Together we made that. That is the most, like, obvious, real-life way to show people that together we are capable of doing something much larger than we are alone, is having that experience. And you don't ever have to say it. You don't, like the asphalt art that we did, I didn't go around preaching at everybody like, see, you said you weren't an artist, but like everyone had that feeling. Like everybody backed up from that and they were like, oh my God, like look what we just made so fast together. And they're so proud of it. So it's like, it's a real lived experience that drives that mycelial point home, is that we all together, we can do something that's really, really powerful.
So let's talk a little bit about West Virginia. So you're from West Virginia. I'm not. I've been here about 2 years. And one of the things that has stuck out to me that I've been surprised by is what I sort of think about, like pockets of hope, right? Like I think there's a lot of places where people are like, we can figure this out together. Yeah. And I didn't expect that. That's not. I don't think every place I've lived has been like that. And I think that people from outside of West Virginia probably don't expect that either. But I think when you work on these community projects and when you're traveling around the state, where do you see hope? Where do you see the opportunity to look at each other and to build those bridges that might be, I don't know if they're unique to us, but certainly exist here?
Oh, I hate to go to something that's kind of like tragic, but that's where my brain just went. I just moved into a community in Huntington. I have lived in West Virginia my whole life, and I lived about 20 minutes away from where I am now forever. So I moved into Huntington, and I moved into an area that is prone to flooding. And my house is all right, but like right down in my neighborhood is really prone to flooding. And I wrote this poem recently. I'm sure some of you all know what sizing is in like watercolor painting, watercolor paper. When you size the paper, it makes it stronger. And I wrote this poem about how the people in that community had been sized by the flood because they are rock solid. Like, they do not give a crap who believes what. I think I just told y'all earlier, there's a dude that looks like the Big Lebowski that blasts the most intense heavy metal music out of his house. He is crazier than a bed bug. Everybody there loves him and relies on that man for like minutely flood updates when it's flooding. And he, without fail, he has everybody's number. He gets on Facebook. He lets everybody know where they are. People tell Bill when they're leaving. He knows if somebody's at their aunt's house that he needs to call them. Like, these are people that take care of each other like crazy. And I think it's the life-altering feeling of having your house underwater that just makes everything else seem pointless to get mad about. It's like, well, we've all been through this disaster together. And I feel like West Virginia we've been sized by all kinds of things. I mean, we've really been taken from a lot. And where people, when you're hungry, you're not going to care what the person feeding you believes or whether they're on your side about things or whatever. When you're really in need, that's when people like come together. And that's sad. That's a sad answer, but I do think it's true. I think that West Virginians can find hope in all kinds of ways because we've had to rely on each other so much. And poor people are some of the most hopeful people in the world, and they can make something out of anything. So like that feels inherently hopeful to me too. Just people taking other people's junk and turning it into something that is functional for them is amazing. And then, I see communities like West Edge. That's the obvious answer. West Edge, where I am, is so hopeful because they got it right. Like, they realized somebody's not useless because they had an issue with drugs. They're not like a person to be thrown away. That's a person that just needs a little help to get back where they need to be so they can contribute. And when I see people like that refuse to believe that anybody's worthless, then everybody rises up. Like the stuff that Coalfield has been able to do is incredible because of the people that they hire, because they're like, these people aren't to be cast off. Like we can build something together. So that's where I find most hope, is at West Edge.
I love that. All right, I'm going to ask you one last question, and we'll turn things over to the audience. And this one, as president of the university, is totally self-serving. Talk about our students and the experience you had with them and what you learned about us.
Y'all are amazing. I've told all of you that I'm jealous of you, first of all, so I want you to remember that. I wish I was a student. You are lucky. You are lucky to be having classes and faculty that care about you. The way you care for each other is so apparent. The way you kind of hype each other up, even when the other person isn't in the room. Like, I met with several people who were eager to show me. They were like, oh, but look at this person's stuff. And so proud, and you all know where each other work and what kind of stuff you're dealing with. A lot of that, I think, is from having a small community, which is really, really awesome that you get that much attention from your teachers and time to be with each other. But that's the feeling that I will, like, number one feeling I would go home with from the students here is just that you all are like little hype men for each other all the time. And that is absolutely what you need to do. That is what you need to carry with you when you leave. Like, competition is good, but not to the point of shunning each other. Like, always clap for the person that's beside you, that's doing something that you want to do. Especially if they're doing it even better than you're doing it and it's kind of killing you inside. Clap for them and then go ask them for help, ask them for advice. How are you doing that? Like, keep them close. Like, don't push each other away. But you all, like, I've not seen an ounce of that here. It's like every single person that I've talked to knew that Zara got into, where'd you get into? Kent State? Yeah. Yeah. Like, the amount of your fellow students that have told me that with actual tears and joy in their eyes is, yeah, that's what I think about.
Awesome. Well, I could ask you questions all night, but I want to give the audience a chance too. So we've got a microphone. So raise your hands if you want to ask a question, and we'll run that microphone to you.
Hello. I would just like to say that I've been following you since COVID, and I would wait for your new portraits to come, for you to post them whenever you were doing the 100 Badass Women. And I always wondered, how did you keep it up? Did you ever wake up and say, I don't want to paint a painting today, I don't want to do this? And I'm sure people were bombarding you, but I just want to tell you it was very inspiring, and it really, I shared your stuff all the time. People were so inspired by that time because it was a really hard time. So I just want to thank you for giving me that. And I just wanted to know, how did you keep inspiring others, and how did you not fall, run out of steam, I guess I should say.
Thank you. I love that question. I had an emotional breakdown around day 60, and I was like crying my eyes out, and I was like, what have I done? I can't finish this. I'm going to have to like fake my death to get out of it. Yes, I thought about, not very often though, not as often as I would have thought, but there were maybe 2 times where I really got like this sense of dread where I was like, I can't do this for another 50 days. I'm going to die. But like, what kept me doing it is the fact that I said I would do it. And I knew I have trouble sometimes with follow through. And I've told some students this. I know that that's a spot for me that needs work. I have a lot of ideas. I'm like an idea machine, and it's really hard to pick the one to do because at any given moment, all of them sound really exciting to me. So I know that about myself. So when I painted Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I remember posting that online, and it had a really good interaction, like the people were interacting, that made me want to paint more because I think I was real starved for community, and I got it was online, but I got kind of a sense of community with that. But the fact I went online on my website the second day, the day I painted Maya Angelou, and I wrote up that thing, there's 100 days left. I looked at the calendar, and I promised it. I promised online that I would do it every single day for 100 days, and I knew it was batshit crazy thing to do. But I was like, I know if I say I'll do it, that I'll do it. And I just, that's how I finished it. I felt like I had to. I didn't feel like I had a choice. And then obviously people being into it, like so many people followed it. It was really overwhelming. And I did get a ton of comments and interaction. I think that kept me going a ton too. Because some days I thought it was about the paintings at first, but then some days I couldn't wait to finish the painting because I wanted to post it because I wanted to hear all the stories people were telling about it. So that definitely helped me. But yes, I wanted to quit several times. I just didn't.
Hi, I saw you in painting class, which thank you for coming to that as well and giving us your personal advice on every single person's painting. Because I know some people here might not know that, but the fact that you went around and individually gave critique and advice and help and support, that was really important to me. I first met you at the Governor's School for the Arts a couple of years back.
Oh my God, I knew you looked familiar.
Yes, and I went for vocals then, but when I went into that art studio, I think that was the exact moment that I knew I wanted to pursue art. And I was also just a few years from coming out at that point as non-binary, and seeing an artist be so open about being trans and supporting students that were also going through things like that, that was very important to me. But I wanted to ask how you dealt with, the sort of criticism that people have of being trans and maybe some of the inner, criticism you had for yourself at first, and if art helped you through that.
Yeah, I think art helped me do that a lot. Like I said in the beginning of the talk, like art has always been kind of my language, I think. And as I've gotten more comfortable and gotten to know myself better, I don't always need that as my language, but it always has been. So it's helped me find a point of connection with a lot of people that maybe I wouldn't see eye to eye with. As far as criticism, everybody's got something to say. Like, they're going to no matter what. I really just try not to listen to it. I don't get a lot of like very pointed personal, like I've never had anybody to my face say anything bad. That's kind of remarkable that that's never happened. I've had a lot of stuff online where people send me stuff and I just delete it, because they don't know me. Like, they don't know me at all. And I just feel like you said, seeing an older person and being an artist and being honest about that, if I would have had that when I was younger, I cannot imagine how that might have helped me. I really can't wrap my brain around what that would have done for me to see any human being, like like a mirror of myself in any way. So to me, being open is for that reason. And you can't tell me that's not worth it. People that say things like that are just being small. They don't understand. And I'm not going to say like it never hurts, but also don't read the comments on anything ever. just do not read the comments. It's never a good idea. Local news stuff, do not. And I've been there. That's where I've probably gotten most of it, because I do a lot of like front-facing, big, huge artwork and stuff, and some of it is super gay. And then people want to like say all the things about it, and I just can't read the comments because I know it'll make me, drop my head, drop my shoulders. It'll take something away from me, and I don't want something taken away from me. So. I hope that ignore it as much as you can. Consult your gut about it. If you know yourself, you know who you are, and you're surrounding yourself with people who honor who you are and treat you with respect, then ignore all the haters because they don't know what they're talking about. They're just small.
Thank you.
Hey, Sassa, it was great meeting with you, especially yesterday, and being able to formally meet you. In the president's office, we read up about you a lot, and it was really fun to see your journey through the internet. And this is a little change of question here. In the historical context, we look back on history, and we can really see how people felt. Especially art throughout World War II, those sorts of things. I like looking at art after the wars, during the wars, etc. But my question to you is, where exactly do you see art in Appalachia within the next 5 to 10 years? Because, we have a lot of things going on nationally, but also internationally as well that are affecting our everyday lives. So I just wanted to see if you had any insights on that.
I think art is behind a lot of the community revitalization in Appalachia everywhere. So there's all these cool little towns that are being, and we talked about it today at lunch, like people were talking about here in Fairmont, things that they did never think they would see. And art is always behind that. Like when you go to a cool city that really leaves an impression on you, there's always something creative that's happening there. There's always big murals people want to take their pictures in front of. There's always like something to do that's artistic. So I see Appalachian art just having like a big cultural impact on just cultural change in small little pockets all over the place. And then those little pockets starting to get connected. And Appalachians are resilient. Like absolutely, like I said, can make something out of absolutely nothing, trash. Like we are a very crafty people. We're a very creative group of people, so it makes perfect sense to me that we would like quilt and sculpt and paint our way out of a mess together, kind of. I think that's how I see it changing everything, is just by popping up these really beautiful little pockets, and hopefully that'll be done in ways that it's not extractive to the artists. That would be my highest hope for that, and that's. So my role now with Coalfield is creative placemaking, which is exactly what I'm describing to you, using the arts and culture to kind of revitalize a place and give people a sense of place. And we want to do that in a way that is not extractive. So there's some places where that becomes pretty apparent, like Asheville, I think, is kind of one of those places where the artists made it really cool, but once it got really cool, the landlords made it really expensive, and the artists can't live there anymore. And that's a bunch of baloney. So I think as we're working towards those kind of community revitalization efforts, everybody needs to keep that in mind, that it, like, who's helping to make it this way, and build in like some support systems so it doesn't become extractive.
Anyone else have a question? All right. Well, thank you again.
Can I say something really quick?
You can say anything you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to send me pictures of their artwork, any of you students that I've helped with your artwork, please do. I love it. I absolutely love it. I have students from 10 years ago that send me stuff. Like they send me, I just got into a master's program I wanted to get into. Like, please message me and let me know where you're at. I would love to see it. I will remember you by the artwork. I will remember your Klimt painting. I'll remember every single thing you ever made and showed me. I might not remember your name, but I'll see your face and remember your paintings and stuff. So send me updates. send them to me on Instagram or email me or whatever. I'd really love to keep in touch and see what you're up to.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we have a couple gifts for you. We got a few things for you so you can take some Fairmont State with you. So there you go. So let's have another round of applause. We'll have a reception event. There will be one more presidential speaker series guest at the end of April, beginning of May. So April 30th, we'll have Matt Johnson, who's an international magician. So on the 30th in Gym 1, he'll be doing his illusionist act. And then up here on May 1st, we'll be having a conversation about resilience. Because he'll tell a story even during his act where he sort of talks about how everybody told him he was no good and he would never make it. So we'll have that conversation here on the next day. So we'll have 2 days with Matt Johnson, and that'll be the concluding event for this year's Presidential Speaker Series. So hope to see a lot of you there, and hope to see a lot of you out in the hallway for the reception and all that art. Thank you. Thanks.